Hey, so my first job in media actually was with WVKO 1580 AM. Um, in my hometown of Columbus, 50s, WVKO was like a legendary name. I remember as a kid growing up, and it was gospel. It kind of just turned gospel when I was growing up. This is where Casey Jones was known. He's probably like one of the biggest guys or the face of the station for many years, and then with gospel. Then it kind of went quiet because FM radio kind of became the dominant frequency that people consume their radio, and AM radio has disadvantages. So, like after 7 o'clock, AM radio frequencies drop, and so AM radio is in mono versus FM's in stereo. So it has a very much harder thing to listen to. And so when I got into the business in 2008, I had got an opportunity to board op, and board op is those that kind of it's kind of like in a producer role to a degree. And I had an opportunity to do WVKO, and didn't know even existed still. And this guy named Gary Richards that bought it, who started CD 101. And so he had brought WVKO because of the brand and the history and the legacy, and was going to make it a liberal station. And so in Columbus, we had this station called 610, which is kind of like Fox News version of radio, right? It's very, very conservative conversations. And so VKO was supposed to be like the MSNBC of the radio world in Columbus. And so it was very liberal. And so they had a mix of like Rachel Meadows. They would air the Columbus Clippers shows, that I did a lot of producing for with Scott Leo, who's an amazing guy, by the way. Never got a chance to meet Scott. We just talked on the phone a lot of times. I don't know what Scott Leo looks like. But we've talked so many different times. I know his voice, but never seen this brother a day in my life. And he was the commentator for the Clippers. And so I did they did a couple like live shows. Typically, most of the live shows like on weekends. The Working Man Show with Dean Francis, who he's no longer alive, with his RIP to Dean Francis, Urban Trendsetters. There was this liberal, I guess, homosexual group. I can't think of their name. They had a magazine. I never did their show. I was always in the later part of the afternoon. I think they did theirs like really early. And I think Sonya did their show or somebody. I forgot who did theirs. But they were like really, really early. And I think either they had their own producer or something like that. Why I didn't do their show, because Alvis Moore produced this show too. So a couple of the shows they had their own producer. And so Alvis Moore did like the gospel section on Sunday morning, and I would come in early to get ready for Dean Francis. He would come on right after Alvis, and there would be Urban Trendsetters. There was Ella Coleman. And so those three were kind of like back to back to back, and then that would be like the last of the live content, and for Sunday. And then Saturday had content as well, and I didn't do a lot of Saturdays. I don't know all who was on Saturdays, off the top of my head. But and then Monday through Friday at 5, they had a show called What's Happening with Mike Cole, and that was my first time ever producing for Mike Cole, and he's a really, really great, highly informative liberal, and he had a lot of great things. And this is the time when Obama is running for office, and so what a cool time to kind of be in radio, and you're in a liberal station. You're kind of with like history behind it. And then Mike Cole, something happened with Mike Cole. I don't know if he just was tired of doing a show or they fell out. I really don't know. And then Dr. Bob Petrakis came in. And Dr. Bob Petrakis thought, one thing I learned about Dr. Bob Petrakis, I learned a lot about social studies, because he taught that in Columbus State. But he was really, really bright. He had a guy that was like his co-host, and he was very like environmental savvy. So he didn't have a car or nothing. He like rode his bike everywhere. I think he lived in German Village, very environmental savvy. Like he just didn't believe in any of those things. And cool guy, I can't think of his name. We had great conversations. But Dr. Bob Trek was a brilliant man when it comes to social issues and social studies. And he was a bit humongous Bob Marley fan. That's how I became a Bob Marley fan, because Dr. Bob Petrakis, because he loved him some Bob Marley, and he educated me about the history of Bob Marley, what Bob Marley means, not only to Jamaica, but just to minorities as a period. Now, Dr. Bob was a white man. Dr. Bob Petrakis was this white man, curly hair. He looked like he could have been Kim Clement's brother, and you don't know Kim Clement is in the spiritual world, he's a prophet. And so that was like my first jobs of board hopping for live talent, and I would chime in from time to time. And I was really grateful because they didn't let everybody who board up do that. But they gave me the opportunity, and they gave me a lot of leeway early on, and it was just a fun experience, man, to learn timing, to learn structure, learn organizational things in that. And so I was really grateful for that time in my first gig in radio.